Welcome back, guys. So in this particular layer I'm going to be showing you how to do a proper roughness map for your model. So I'm sure some of you might be having some issues on how to create roughness or specular map for your model. Yes, because at the earlier stage when I was kind of learning how to do proper skin textures for my model, I encountered an issue with my roughness map because it did not really give me that realistic result because I was not doing it right. Now there's a lot going on in the roughness map of your model. There's a lot going on in there. You don't just create a new layer and then just make it look reflective and then you feel yes you're done, all good. So it doesn't really work. It doesn't really work that way. There's still some work that needs to be done inside. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done while painting your roughness map. So before we continue, I would like to show you guys an idea of how I go about painting my roughness map. So I had a reference image is made a screenshot of from a YouTube video. So his roughness map and specular map or clear coat map looks like this. So if I zoom in, you can see you can almost see like the curvature map in here with some layers of brighter white spots and grayish spots to kind of give variations to the roughness effects on your model. So I kind of follow this concept to kind of make my own roughness map. Also, you need to keep in mind that there's a particular region of the face which is more oily than some other parts of the face. So we call that the T-zone. So in that T-zone, you get more reflectivity compared to other parts of the face. So if you look in here, we have around the corners of the nose, under the chin, on the forehead. So I had this kind of reference image to kind of give me a guide on where to actually paint and how to actually paint in those oily surface on my model to give you that realistic result. Yeah, so something like this. So let's dive in. So let me just do a breakdown of how I did that compared to this. So carrying on, so let me turn all of this off. And looking at the model like this, it looks kind of flat and kind of painterly, more like those splashes of paint around it without having that realistic feeling of an actual skin. So turning all this off, so I started with let me open this up. So I started with a layer, just a fill layer. On the fill layer, I add more roughness in there as a base layer to start my creating my roughness map. So it's not very obvious if I should take this all the way. It's shining as shiny as this. I don't want this, so I made this rougher. So I made the base layer a bit rougher, and then on top of that, I had another layer with less roughness. The previous roughness for that particular layer was 0.8, and also there's some metallic channel to it, very little. With so they add 0.8 here. So on the next layer, I took this down to around 0.5 with no metallic effects in there. Okay, or around 0 rather, around 0. Then aside from that, I went to my fill layer and I brought in my curvature map also in there. So I kind of use my curvature map to kind of drive or make my let me just, if you hit your C, if you hit the C on the keyboard multiple times, it brings out this your roughness channel. If you have your roughness channel, so if I turn this off, let me confirm if this is my roughness channel. It should show around here. Normal map. Video. Let me confirm. Let me be sure of the actual roughness map in here. Yes, this is the roughness channel. I believe this is the roughness channel. So let me turn all of this off. You know, I have different variations of roughness in my painted layers also. So all those are kind of effect it's kind of popping out on my render on the roughness channel too. So while painting your color maps, you can see some variations of roughness in there to kind of give it a more appealing result. But for now, let me turn all of this off so I don't have any confusion. So we can just focus entirely on the roughness map I created up here. So if I turn this off, so for this particular layer, I adjust this. If you recall, I adjust this for this particular layer. And on the next layer of this, let me turn this off and bring this on. The next layer of this, now you can see it properly. I had these settings 0.6 for the roughness. Then I had my curvature map driving this. So I was actually experimenting with this. Doing some experimentation with this. So on the first levels I added, this one was not useful enough for me. So I added another levels adjustments with this setting in here. So if I should bring this back, bring this layer back up, let me just turn on let me open this up and turn on just this base. I'll turn on my base. Let me turn all of this off. Let's work with only the base so we can actually see. So we can actually see how roughness map is affecting our model. So yes, perfect. So going back up. So on this channel only, so you can see how if I turn this off. No, it's very subtle. It's not very obvious, but it's still in there. It's more. Let me zoom in properly so you can see the effects. So you can see how these levels and my curvature map is actually adding some kind of reflectivity in between the pores. Let me show you an example. If I should let's use this as an example. If I should zoom into this, you can see in between the pores, or kind of outward an inverted side of the pores, you see a bit more roughness, or rather more specular or reflective texture in there. Like you can see the lights bouncing on this, and you can see the reflectivity of this particular skin pore in here. So I was trying to create that similar effect on my model also. Let's similar effect. So if let's say I turn this off. So it's just subtle changes. So let me bring back my. I believe it should be it. So if I should, so you can see with this off and with this on. So I kind of use the levels kind of shrinking or kind of exclude out where I don't want the reflection to be on. So you can actually use your curvature map to kind of drive and kind of give more details to your reflection. Then in some areas whereby I have something, this was an error, so I kind of use my paint layer to kind of paint those off. And I use my contrast. If I turn this off, you can see. Now with these contrast settings, I have something like this. I have something like saving out. Okay. So with this contrast, it should come up. Okay, so with this my contrast off, I add something like this, but I needed to have more control to kind of make it look more rough on the surface. So if I should bring back my color mode, I should turn this on. So if I turn this off, you see it's more reflective. But if I turn this on, now it gets more rougher. It's kind of excluding out some parts. So in the map, it looks like this. when this is off, it looks like this, and when this is on, it looks like this. So I was satisfied with this result. Let me turn that off. So in the next layer, let me bring this back on. Next layer, I kind of tune down. I was just creating new few layers and then tuning down, or rather making it look more reflective. Because if you take this down, it's more reflective. If you take this off, it looks rougher. So I was creating more few layers and kind of adding more reflection to it. So if I should bring this, so with this, yes. So if I should go in there, yes. I should go in there. I made some hand painted textures on here. So let me turn this off. Obviously, I use another dot brush. I use a dot brush for this. So now I needed to add some more reflectivity in some particular regions of the face, the T-zone region. Something that looks like, following this reference, something that looks like this. Something that looks like this, so you can see. So if I should bring back the color effect on, as you can see, around that region, you see it's more reflective. It's more reflective around those regions. Around those regions, you can obviously tell. Then I added the levels to that. Let me bring this back on. Oh. Yeah, this should be this is the actual roughness map. So on here, after doing my painting on this, because I needed to be on this channel to kind of have more control on the regions where I want to actually paint my roughness map. But the actual roughness map is actually this channel here. So I added the levels in there, and then I blow that out, kind of give it a softer feeling to it. Turning that off, so let me turn this back on. So on this particular layer, it gets more interesting on this particular layer. Why? Because even though let me turn this off and bring this back on. Even though I had this blurred out reflection on this, I still wanted to kind of break. I still wanted to kind of break this reflection on the surface a bit more, because now it's looking just so plain. It looks so plain without any breakup in there. So I ended to have to kind of break up on that particular surface of reflection I just added. So I went in here. Let me bring back the channel so you guys can properly see. Yes, so I went in to put in a new fill layer. On this fill layer, I made it a bit more rougher, 0.8. Then it was being driven by some procedural noise. So I had a ground spot. I had a ground spot procedural noise to that with a scale of 31. So let me turn this off. So I have something like this, as you can see. Also bearing in mind that your blend mode should be kind of, it shouldn't be on normal, it should be different also. It should be this. Let's find out what this is. LH. Yes, it was linear dodge add. So it was on linear dodge add. So if you put it on normal, so I add it on linear dodge add, it's kind of blend this within these two layers here. So if I turn this off, turn this back on, so I added another Gaussian spot for this with a scale of 30, and I'm using the same linear dodge, kind of blend this between themselves. So if I should bring back my color layer, so I have something like this, turn this on. Let me zoom in so you can see this properly. So as you can see, some roughness. Look, the part where I had these bronze dots are more rougher. Take a look. I don't know if you can see this properly. As you can see the difference. So now let me turn all this back on. So with all the layers of roughness turned back on, turn this on, the more rougher underneath reflection, with this on top, then this for the oily parts of the face, just like the reference image I had. Then this kind of break up that reflectivity, so it doesn't look just so plain. So turning on all my layers back on, turning on the layers back on. So turning all this back on. I add my finished dark skin texture. So obviously I needed to do some kind of test render to know if everything is working or coming out properly as it should. So let me close this. So I needed to kind of do a render for this inside of iRay to kind of see if everything is coming out the way it should be. If not, I'll go in there and begin to do some adjustments as much as I want. So let me turn on my iRay render. Also, you need to bear in mind that when you add your sub SSS to it, your subsurface scattering effect to your model, it kind of soften out the textures also, so giving it a more appealing result. Giving it a more appealing result, and also depending on your light setup on your model, you have a slightly different result also. So as you can see, it looks quite nice. Looks quite nice. Now in here what's it called, the subsurface scattering effect was not really working properly on the iRay render, but so far so good. My textures, I was kind of satisfied with my textures, satisfied with the look of my textures. And then just bringing it into Maya, and then using the V-Ray render to render this out, had a more appealing result. So this is how I textured and did my entire texturing for my character. Now, if you feel you need more, as I can see on the lips now, I need more pinkish tone around the lips. You can always go in there and pin this back if you want to on your model, or you can leave it the way it is. You have options to play with non-destructively to kind of create that cool, realistic dark skin or Caucasian skin texture in Sotas Penta, however way you want. So thank you guys for watching. So see you in the next tutorial. Bye.